To keep six, connect the six. And today we are going to be joined by Matthew Smith for a very, very important conversation regarding reintegration after incarceration. Thank you, folks. Thanks everyone for coming back. It's been a while. I've been asked by a lot of our community members about the Keep Six, Connect the Six. And I honestly felt there was an individual to invite this Connect the Six. Oh, wow. Matthew, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you? I'm good.
I'm good. Long time no see. It's really, really nice to connect. Hold on there. There we go. Let's get it ready for all the folks there. Yeah, how's things been going?
I have no complaints at all, man. God is
That's
good.
important. That's important, man. Well, thank you so much for accepting the request and, checking in and following up with me. Let me just plug in here. So we're all good there. We got some folks joining us on the live. So for anyone who doesn't know, we met about 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
2023, yeah.
It's been a minute. So Keep Six was part of supporting you from back then. And how it's been? I know you left Toronto.
Oh, I would say it was more than part. It was a vital piece of support. It wasn't like in the background. It was, and although I was born in Toronto, I'm not originally, although I was born in Toronto, I'm not originally from Toronto. I grew up in Nova Scotia, so you guys were pretty much the only support that I had, and that was big time for me for sure. Being that all my family was provinces away, and I was just getting released from incarceration at the time, just pretty much living in Ontario for the first time as an adult. So yeah, Keep Six was vital to my community support while I was in Toronto, and still to this day, for sure.
Thank you, man. Kudos to you, man. I appreciate it, man. It's kind of funny that because you're in Toronto and now I don't know the exact number, but I have a few individuals who's from Toronto that's in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, Toronto, Ontario, and Nova Scotia are definitely, intertwined for sure in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I just did an interview with an individual down there, maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, over at Spring Hill. And it was really, really impactful. It was a brother. He's actually Nova Scotian background, but he's here in Ontario, and he came on and did the interview. I was able to get an interview with him. He's been in for...
You mean Norman, Mr.
Yeah, Stormy Norman.
For sure. Yeah, I actually watched that interview. And my mom actually her and Norman grew up together, so she actually watched it first. I showed her the link on YouTube, and she watched it first, and I had a chance. I think I've watched it probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And I don't know Norman overly well, but when you serve time with someone and you're living next door to them for 2-3 years, you get to pretty much learn almost everything about them, their good ways, their bad, and Norman's a stand-up guy for sure. So that was encouraging to watch that interview and see where Norman was at, just mentally and emotionally. Because I know Norman's a straight shooter, so I know if he's not going to come on an interview and lie and mislead. That's just not how he is. So it was good to see that he had made some progress since the last time that I saw him.
Yeah, that was really good. I've known Norm for many, many years. And it was really impactful. Actually, when he reached out about support and, and stuff like that. And I think right now we find a lot of brothers or individuals, so to speak, who are actually at a stage, I call it burnout, or just had enough, and I just feel that he was one of those individuals that is at that stage where he just wants to have a good life and make up for all the time. You'll never be able to make up for the time that you spend, but just be able to live a life like everybody else, right? And not be behind bars or anything like that. So that was what I kind of gathered from him.
Well, it gets to a point where you want something different, and at that point, sometimes it doesn't come for certain people. Sometimes, it comes at different times for everybody. There's no there's no playbook on, like, it's just not something you can anticipate. Not from my point of view, anyways. So, for example, Norman, he's quite a bit older than me. He's been serving time since I was a child, and look at all what he had to go through to finally get to the point where he's just like, I had enough.
Right. I think also it comes, not everybody mature at the same time. I guess some people mature way, way older. Because even in my conversation with him, even regarding support, he was really in depth about how he felt and what he wanted to contribute back to. I mean, everybody knows him. He was really good with his right hand and his left, So that was one of the things with him, right? But it's really inspiring to see him come such a long way, and kudos goes out to him, right? And I hope together that one day we'll actually see him on the other side of the fence where he can actually contribute, like like yourself and others, right?
Well, I
So,
mean, if Norman can do it, anybody can do it because he's been through it, man. I mean, I've had my share of struggles, but Norman's been through the fire and back multiple times.
right,
And so, if he can, make that change with intention, then there's really no excuse for it. And it's not like it's easy to do, obviously.
right.
Um, and the system is not set up for anyone to make that change. That's not how the system operates.
It's funny that's a key thing. I mean, kudos goes to Normie and so forth. But you brought up a good point. The key word is the system. Give me a definition of the system to you, like from your own perspective, your lived experience.
Do you want my opinion about the system or what I think the system is and how it operates?
Your opinion. We'll start with your opinion.
Well, first, I think it's to me the system. I mean, there's systems in all walks of life, whether it's education, religion, healthcare, prison. These are all different systems. That's just how humans work. We work on systems. But the prison system in particular, to me, it's made up of individuals, whether they're inmates or whether they're staff. There's rules in the system. There's policies that are supposed to govern the staff. So I feel like the system has a lot of moving parts. And you can have, like, in regards to staff that work in the system, you can have staff that mean well, that have good intentions, but the system itself, maybe not the individuals working in the system, but the system itself is not designed for people to better themselves or to help you or to rehabilitate. Now they use those words, but that's not how it's designed. So I've come to the conclusion that the system is just a business, and a lot of it is just all about the bottom line. And the reason I say that is because I'll tell you a quick story. So I was incarcerated in Alberta, and
Wait, hold one
so
second. So this time around,
this was after I met you in
all right,
2023. Yes,
okay,
exactly.
yeah,
So this is not in federal. This is in the provincial system.
all
So I
right,
was incarcerated under the authority of the province of Alberta.
all right,
And I had what's called like a special religious diet, meaning every time it's time for food, due to my religious beliefs, I got a specific diet. And the way you get on a religious diet or a special diet is you typically have to have some support from a religious leader in the community. So if you're Jewish, it would be a rabbi. If you're Christian, it would be a minister or a pastor or a preacher. If you're Muslim, it would be an imam, so on and so forth.
right.
And so I was on this particular diet for let's say, I don't know, about 18 months, and I got on this diet using the support of a religious institution in the community. So they contacted the Alberta Solicitor General, basically the staff of the jail, and said, these are his religious beliefs, so we're signing off on it. Can you please put him on this special diet? So they approved it. I was on it for about a year and a half. And then basically just out of the blue, now I have my own theories as to why this happened, but I really have no proof, so I'll leave that aside.
All right.
But they just basically came one day and said, we're taking you off of your special religious diet, and you're going to have to eat the same food as everyone else. And the reason that they gave me was these diets, because usually, so if you're not on a religious diet, you go to the cafeteria and the food is cooked in like big portions. So there's like big bowls for everybody, and they just dig in and put it on the plate, move on to the next person. But if you're on a special diet, you basically get a sealed like TV dinner for every meal.
Right.
So they basically told me that the reason that they couldn't continue this was the food was too expensive, and I actually believe that was part of the reason. Now I think there was a little more to it, and they basically broke it down for me. They're like, if you're on a non-religious diet, it basically costs $2 a day to feed you, and if you're on a religious diet, it costs about $6 per meal. So I mean, okay, I guess that makes sense, but it's not as if this money is coming out of a staff member's pocket. This is coming from whomever. So then I just started to look at it. I'm like, this is all just a business. It's now it's hard to see that from the outside looking in, but once you start to experience certain things, you just see that everything's about the bottom line, whether it's security within the institution, whether it's religious support, whether it's visiting rights, it all boils down to the bottom line. And if they think they're basically trying to keep themselves in the green so they can profit off of each individual that's incarcerated.
Well, it's very interesting you mentioned that. Every time, you always hit another topic. So just the other day, just after the budget came out, I noticed that there was a big cut. We're on religion. So a lot of, what are they? Not priests.
Rabbis,
No, Christian. Chaplain.
chaplains, yeah,
A lot of chaplains was cut within the system itself, right?
and the
So, yeah, in the federal system. And it kind of goes. So, religion, you're aware that religion plays a very, very, very important part for individuals who are incarcerated, right? I think it's
big
fair
time.
to say to me, I would go religion, then food, or food, then religion. I still haven't figured out which one,
I would say it's number one, actually.
yeah, and that's what I said. I said, I just didn't have statistic because when to back up things, because there's always someone who wants to challenge you. That's the reason I'm trying to be fair. So, and it kind of made me rattle my head. I understand you're cutting a budget, but I thought, chaplain in an institution would be important to guys, right? Culturally and preparing them for the key word is reintegration, right? So it's
Oh,
kind of goes with your conversation that you're having. There is a gentleman here, or individual. I just would love to. He said he was in for 34 years. I'd have loved to get his perspective. If there's someone out there that would love to jump in with us for this conversation, we are looking for individual to join us and for us to really dig in about what goes on and reintegration. Because I think reintegration is a very difficult thing. I've come across so many things over the years from individuals, work inside with individuals, but also outside. And some of it really kind of boggles my mind. I had an individual who got violated because his girlfriend called his PO to ask her how he was being treated bad. But at the same token, they had a no contact order, right? So these are the things, stupid actions get stupid results, right?
and the difficult part about it is like, I mean, I can speak for myself. A lot of the decisions I made while inside just aggravated my circumstances. So I wasn't helping myself at all. And that's the case a lot. I mean, you're not going to prison or jail because, you're following the rules. You're going there because obviously you've broken some rule, you have trouble with the law or whatever the case may be. So rarely ever does somebody get to jail and then flip a switch, and then all of a sudden, they become like law abiding and understand how to follow it. So
Well, in that sense, I will say there are a small percentage, and I'll break it down to you. So you have a young individual who's never been in trouble with the law. He ended up around Jason was just the guy who was able to manipulate him, and he got caught up, could be with a weapon offense or whatever. That individual now, while he's incarcerated, now he's learned how to survive. Because once you get behind those doors, your mind has to be reprogrammed to a survival mode, right? So that individual, gets into a survival mode and he starts learning and he starts meeting up with a few people that kind of put a battery in his back more or so, and then he's programmed, so there's that percentage. That's how I can break it down to you.
yeah, for sure. That I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but the majority of guys struggle when they first get incarcerated because I mean that's just how human behavior typically works until we correct ourselves or we're corrected. And you'll rarely ever see budget cuts or financial cuts in regards to like security or something like that. It's usually always in whatever area could like religion. Chaplain should be the last person they're getting rid of.
Right.
That's crazy.
So over the things, what's happening inside now? I've heard all these horror stories from individuals. Give me a breakdown. Like I'm hearing like there's 4 people to a cell, which that was something. You couldn't even have 3 people to a cell after a period of time. I recall an individual getting killed in Ontario in Maplehurst where a guy jumped off a bunk, jumped on the guy on the floor, and then they built these super jail to obsolete 3 people in the cell. So what exactly is going on?
Yeah, it's well, like in Alberta, for example, triple bunking meaning three people are sharing a one person cell.
Right.
That is probably 90% of the cells in Calgary remand, for example, are probably triple bunking. And I mean, living in jail is hard enough, let alone living in a small 8 by 12 concrete room with 2 other adult men,
Right.
one toilet. It just I've never personally seen 4 to a cell, but I mean anything more than one. What's the difference? Whether it's 2, 3, 4. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think that happens in federal, to be honest, because
No. Well,
um,
actually, now, as you're aware, federal's always had 1 person to a cell. Now, federal are having 2. There is some
oh wow,
institutions, particularly that they're, I don't know, you want to use the word test pilot, or they are having 2 individuals at some federal institution. That's in Ontario that I can speak about. I haven't had the opportunity yet. I'm planning to be in Nova Scotia next month, but that's what's taking place in Ontario.
well the thing about federal
One
on
second, please. Sean Johnson, if you'd love to join us, here's Sean Johnson just says, I just got out on May 6th and live in a halfway house. We'd love to hear from you. He's just touched and so forth. Let's all just make this a real in-depth conversation. Again, if there's somebody that would love to join us, please, we're welcome you to come and join us. Carry on. Sorry.
oh yeah, I was speaking regarding federal. If something's going on in one institution in terms of, so when we say federal, what we mean is if you're serving anything over 2 years, you go to a federal facility, meaning you're under the authority of the Canadian federal government. A provincial facility means that you are under the authority of whichever province you're in. So there's a little bit of a difference. Federal is typically where people are serving longer sentences. It's usually a lot more violent. There's a lot more going on. So if that's happening in a federal institution in Ontario, it's probably happening in other places as well.
Right. So we actually have Sean here joining us. Sean, how are you doing? Thank
I'm
you
good,
so much.
sir.
Good, good. Thank you. So thank you for joining us. I'd just like to hear from you. You give us some time frame that since you got released. What is really going on within the system itself?
The gentleman to my right, or my left there, I should say, is completely right. I do agree that it is about money. And yeah, we are experiencing double bunks. I just got out May 6th, and I've
So
watched.
1 second, from a federal institution or from a
Yes,
provincial institution? Federal.
I've been in every federal institution in Ontario. I've been
You're
in for
busy.
34 years. I started out when I was 19. I am now 53. I was convicted of 3 first-degree murder convictions, and I spent quite a bit of time in. Now, corrections didn't want to let me out, I believe, because I've been a prison activist. I've served on committees. I've ran groups and represented guys. And they love to fabricate stuff to prevent you from getting out. If it didn't happen for the supports that I had in place at this present time, I don't believe I would have been out. I got out from a medium without case management support.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Which institution were you released from?
I got released from Bath on emergency involuntary transfer out of Collins Bay. I was in the lifer house there. I had a guy fabricate a story saying, because I was coming up for parole on a paper decision day parole, and I don't know if you know the guy, but he's wrapped into the case with the Guy Pomeran. So this is the guy, Robert May. He put himself on the stand getting Guy Pomeran convicted. So every time a guy got a UTA or an ETA, this guy would get physically angry that anybody was moving forward, and he wasn't. So he fabricated a story that I became threatening and aggressive and threatened to cut someone's throat. And before I knew it, I was transferred out of there. No opportunity to defend myself to the allegations. Queen's Law helped me with a final level grievance, and CSC admitted that they didn't allow me to defend myself to the allegations. And I'm also Métis, and they didn't take my Aboriginal social history into consideration before the transfer. But it didn't
This
matter.
gentleman isn't This gentleman was an inmate or a staff member?
Inmate. And I tried to get a lawyer to help me with a habeas corpus to prove my innocence. It is very difficult to do that. Unfortunately, some of the support networks that I had in place.
Yeah, Sean, internet connection. So I understand. So he brought up another thing now, the habeas corpus. That's been something that's really been strong lately for a lot of guys. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sean, you had cut out there. So
Yeah,
we're
because
just,
someone tried calling me. I just declined it.
yeah, so we're just saying that you're talking about the habeas corpus, and I just realized that's something that's been really strong now. I actually have somebody on our caseload at Keepsick who was very successfully with that. After applying, he was actually released less than 24 hours after.
A few weeks.
I've actually filed a habeas corpus and won before self-representing myself. I have a little bit of experience with those applications, and it's a Latin term, and in Latin, what it means is possession of the body.
Right.
And so initially, it was basically used for anyone that wanted to challenge just like a general illegal detention. And as the years went on, it became so like if you're at work and you're struggling with your boss or your employer and you feel like they're basically restricting your rights in some way, you can actually file a habeas corpus. And so it's not just for crime, it's basically for any Canadian citizen that feels like they're being illegally detained.
Yeah, sorry to Sean. I think your phone is ringing. You're freezing us up. So
I think it's important to make it clear that I mean, I probably would have never said this 10 years ago, but prisons are something that, are to a certain extent are needed. I'll be honest and say that going to prison probably, or not probably, I think it saved my life and prevented something much worse from happening just due to the path that I was on as a young man. So I'm not here to make it seem like prison is all evil and I'm an angel and no one does anything wrong, because people do wrong. You break the law, you need to be punished and held accountable. It's that simple. And if not, you're going to have
consequences.
You won't have a society. So
I'm having
I
audio
think,
problems. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, Sean, thank you so much. If you want to say something else before you jump off, we just wanted to hear from you because of your expression that you just came out.
Yeah, now I lost my train of thought. No, I spoke at the University of Toronto a couple weeks ago. Andrea Weaver is a friend of mine. She was with the Civil Liberties Association. She had me come in to speak to her law student. And what appears that they want to do something similar to like what Queen's Law is doing, but I got them more swayed to because they want to go back. They want to go into the prisons and that. I explained to them that Queen's Law is fulfilling the part that needs to be done. But I think what more needs to happen is, because, yeah, a lot of guys don't have the education in there. And what I think what might be important, and they're actually very open about it, is going back into the prisons and running workshops, teaching guys how to write their own habeas corpuses, their own judicial hearings, and get them filed with the courts. And then at the point when you need to have a lawyer step in, then they will step in. The other thing that I thought was very important too is I always have a saying that I believe in our judicial system. I just don't believe in the people who manages it. I was around when we had trades, and when you gave guys an opportunity to get marketable skills, that could prevent them returning. They gave them an option. They gave them an opportunity to go back into the employment and contribute to society. In 2006, back in the Harper government, they took away the funding, which therefore closed all the trades. Everybody that I've seen get a trade ticket in auto mechanics, auto body, machine shop, or whatever, I never seen them return back to prison. And they don't look at the scope of what put that person in that situation to begin with. Maybe they were putting food on the table for their family or whatever. But when you gave them an opportunity and another choice, most cases, they take that other opportunity. And even though I'm freshly out of prison, I'm still fighting for the guys inside. I'm still trying to find supports for the guys for inside and out, because there's a lot of things that I'm finding out even in the halfway house here that guys are not aware of the different resources that are out there. And unfortunately, I don't have a job right now, but it gives me an opportunity to start looking for resources for people.
Yeah, I think I can say this from my experience and what I've seen happening. What you're expressing, CSC has acknowledged that, and I can actually say that I see them trying to build in the area of supporting guys. and addressing those exact issues that you just outlined, right?
Right.
I've had the opportunity to have these discussions, and I've had the opportunity also to witness what's taking place, right? But again, we have to be real and say that anything that we're expecting, it's not going to happen tomorrow or next month, right? It's going to be quite some time,
Yeah, I agree.
right? So that's it. But thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it, and to give us your insight.
Yep, no problem. Anytime. Thank you for giving me the floor.
Yes, bye bye. Yeah, Matthew. So this has been, I mean, something that we can honestly fairly say that's been going on for quite some time, right? Now, the thing about it, like I was just expressing, I see quite a difference. I can fairly say that I've seen quite a difference with what's been happening, and actually see us make efforts to combat some of these issues, right? And just a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I was actually in a federal institution, and I was actually with someone, and I spoke to about 70 individuals. And it was kind of interesting because the issue that they were outlining is racism, corruption, suppression, and so forth. And the individual that was actually there was outlining that that is something that has been going on for years when they were actually going into the institution. So it's very mind blowing that the same thing that people have been complaining about or addressing from 30 years ago is still going on, 30 years later, right?
Well, I mean, in what walk of life do you have humans that are in power where there's not corruption, racism? Unfortunately, a lot of that just comes down to human nature. So, change is not going to come unless it's forced, basically. And usually, I mean, when I feel like the changes that I saw throughout my time inside, it always came because it was like a judge's order, or like there was some other authority that forced correction to make a particular change. And a lot of times that starts with exposure. People can't advocate for change if they don't know what they're looking to change. And a lot of what happens inside is hidden. I mean, it's prison. It's a community that is segregated and secluded from the rest of society. So unless organizations like Keep Six or former inmates or former staff or whomever, unless people advocate for change, it's just not going to happen unless it's forced.
So, with that said, do you feel that a lot of times it's just been a checkbox, or do you feel there's actual room for changes? Like, I see a lot of things about Black justice strategy and all these things. And then there's all these work being done because there's funding available to do this work and research and so forth. What's your take? Right, let's really get down and take it the way it is.
I'll be honest, a lot of it is just checkbox. Like Keep Six is, if not the old, one of the few organizations that are actually doing what they're saying. Like, I was in Spring Hill Institution in Nova Scotia, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And I won't say the name of the organization, but there's this Black organization that comes from the community, and they're paid to come and run workshops for the Black inmates incarcerated in that jail. And they'll come for a weekend or for a long weekend, sit around, play cards, drink coffee, and then go home. And it's just basically a hustle because on paper, it looks like these guys are coming in and supporting the Black inmates that are incarcerated, but in all reality, nothing's happening. And that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Wow.
It happens a lot. So, I mean, there's room for change for sure. And it's like speaking as a Black man, it's not just, there's, like I said, this is a Black organization that I'm talking about. And at the end of the day, they're just hurting the people that they're supposed to be supporting. So, everything can't be blamed on the white man or the system. A lot of times we're doing it to ourselves.
Right. And that, is fair to say. But at the same token, I will say that we have to, be responsible for some of the things that takes place. But in essence, how is it that we are able to navigate these situations? Because I see a lot of organizations who are just pop up, and there are individuals who know nothing about the justice system, never even had seeing a set of red and blue lights flash. But all of a sudden, they are talking about reintegration and they want to go into prison and support all these individuals, right? So, like you brought up a point, a hustle, right? But then it kind of affects organizations that are doing the work. And then you have a whole lot of organizations who are actually doing the work who don't have the support, right? I
Who don't have
see
the
Keep
support.
Sixes out there digging deep into their pockets or my pocket or whatever organization that comes out and support us, right? But these individuals are able to know a language to write for funding or whatever it is that they might get to carry on and so forth, right?
I see someone at the in the live here asked a question. They said, "What is it that Keep Six is doing right?" So when when you and I first connected back in 2023, after I got out of federal prison, usually the process is, you connect with your probation officer or your parole officer. First thing they tell you is get a job, go to school. You have X amount of days to do this, and if you don't do this, we're going to send you back. Keep Six, on the other hand, you guys offered me a job. You offered me help with financials, furniture. Now that may not seem like a big deal to someone who's never had to go through these things, but when you're coming out of the institution with nothing, little things like that could be the difference between basically maintaining your freedom or going back inside. And I've never ran across another organization that offered me those kind of supports. So to me, that's one thing that Q6 is doing right, is actually offering actual supports instead of just putting it on a flyer and asking for funding from the government and pretending.
Yeah. So even with that said, thank you. You have to remember, and I just want to put it out there just to be transparent. A lot of the things that Keep Six does, it's not from funding. It's actually, and luckily I have a full-time employment that I'm able to dig deep, into my pocket and do these things, right? I know, I recall a time where I was buying, the truckload of foods, right, that I give out to
Yeah.
the community. And someone says, well, man, Keep Six must be getting a lot of funding to be able to do this big truckload of food. And I was like, no, man, it's like, it's something that I know that the guys who are locked up, they got families outside and they have children, right? And it's coming up to that time, it makes a big difference in the household, right? So I took it up on myself and whatever support I get. And hey, I want to say shout out to someone like Jordana Goldlist, who's been supporting some of my initiatives and supporting me through over the years and the things I do. And, Alison Craig and her law firm and stuff like that, who's been stepping up to the table with donations, but also with supporting individuals in their community, right? So it makes a big difference when we have individuals that believe in you. And that's one thing I learned, is that once you have individuals that sees the value in you and believe in you, those individuals are able to walk with you through, the challenges and support you, right? So these things are very, very important.
Yeah, for sure. I fully agree, because it's very easy to get discouraged when you're going through that. It's difficult, man. It's not easy. And I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but I'm not sure if you remember, but you were helping me out with the job when I first got released.
Right.
And so I brought this to my caseworker, my probation officer, because he was telling me, you have to get a job. You basically have 30 days to do so. Mind you, I just got out of federal prison, got a long ass criminal record, got tattoos everywhere. You think I could just walk into a place and they're just like itching to hire me? It's not that simple. And so I brought this to him. I'm like, yo, this is my job letter. These are the hours I'm going to be working. This is my employer, so on and so forth. As soon as they found out that it was Keep Six, these guys, all hell broke loose. They were like, and to this day, I still don't understand what their issue was, because they never really told me what the problem was. And it just shows me that all of these, a lot of these organizations, these guys are all in bed together. And it's just like, it's a revolving door of corruption, unfortunately.
Well, we know it's been going on and we continue to do what we can, right? The important thing is that, you're free and, and stay free. And that's the important thing. I think right now We are in, I'll use the word an epidemic that's going on, because if you go back and think even to 20 years ago, we are in a different crisis where we have younger generation or younger people with guns, shooting, killings, and so forth, right? So now it's a whole different ballgame. And even on the inside, if you go on the other side of the fence, you have a generation now where there was that loyalty, there was that communication, there was that respect. All that is gone on the other side of the fence. So it's one big hot mess as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you end up in prison because you break the law, you make bad decisions. So, I'm not blaming anyone for what the direction that my life went. But, that's why it's just so important that, youth and young men and young women I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously. Young people don't make good decisions, regardless of what they're doing. So when
Right.
you couple that with the street life, you're not allowed to make mistakes in the street. You can make
No.
mistakes in school. You can make mistakes if you're playing sports or in the military or whatever.
Right.
A mistake in the streets costs you your life either by going to jail or dying.
Yeah, that's a totally different ballgame, right? But a lot of individuals with the street life or outside, they don't look at that, right? You ever hear the saying, a dude will get up every morning and go down to Corcan or whatever and work, but they would never be out and go get a job at Mackie D's, right? Yeah, but think about it. If you think about it, you go and you'll work while you're inside. And what is it? I think their wages are up now at maybe $50 every 2 weeks, right?
It's that high?
Or 40. I think it was like 40 something. So I think the highest right now is about 50 something dollars, like 51 or something like that in Ontario.
Yeah, Corcan is basically a part of the prison system where you can work and you usually do it's usually like a metal shop or it's some type of physical labor. And you sometimes you could get training, forklift license. All of this happens in what's called Corcan. So when he says get up every morning and go to work to Corcan, that's what a lot of guys do in prison. And a lot of guys work in the Corcan industry.
Yeah. So for individuals who don't understand, within the federal prison, there is another entity called Corcan. Corcan manufactures and produce items within the federal government, within Correctional Service of Canada. And some of the things they make is parachutes for the Army. They make eyeglasses. They make beds, dressers, cabinets, that is used for the Army, I think even for the fire department and police and so forth. So those items are all made. They also repair Army vehicles at one federal institution. So inmates have a pay grade for their labor. And the pay grade right now, I think, might be anywhere from $47 every 2 weeks to, I think, 52 might be the highest pay grade for someone.
That's high. When I was there, it was like 34 was the max.
Right. So I'm just going by what. And so when you're saying when you were in Ontario, that's what it was.
Yeah, that was the max you could get paid. If you were on A level pay was I think 34 or $35. Yeah.
Right. So right now, from what I understand from the guys, I think it's up to 49 or 48 or something like that. Maybe some guys are getting 50. And Sean just said there's no more incentive, right? So there was incentive at one time, but there's no more, right?
What does he mean there's no more incentives?
It says Pittsburgh and Workforce.
They're not paying you to work, or?
No. I think at one time guys had incentive for when they work. So I think that's what he's speaking about. I don't know what the incentive back were at that time. He's been around for a long time. I think he's been on two charges. He's been at Pittsburgh and he's been at Workforce. Oh, incentive for performance, he says, or someone else says.
So like performance bonuses.
Yeah, right. Because I think when you look at it, like for instance, if they're throwing parachutes like they do, I guess X amount to meet the quota, I guess they would get incentive, right? It's just like being on the outside. If you're on a project and you work and hey, we need to do X amount of this, then we finish it in time or before, then there's an incentive. It could be an extra hour per day or a bonus at the end of the project, right? So I guess that's where 69 before. Okay, so here we go. So we're right. So he said that $69 before deduction because individuals incarcerated, they pay for their telephone, cable, and when I say telephone, room and board,
You
and
actually have to pay rent to stay in prison, literally.
yeah. So you do stay, and then there are also welfare. I don't know what welfare is right now, but individuals who do not work, they get what you call welfare, and welfare might be $5 every 2 weeks or $10 every 2 weeks. I don't really know what it is. Sean could probably tell us what welfare is because he just came out. So, the numbers come down to about 40 something after the deduction if it's at 69 before deduction, like he's saying, right? So for individual to understand, inmates or individuals have cable to watch cable television in their cell. That does not come for free. They have phones on their unit where they're able to pick up the phone. They have a card which program telephone numbers are on that particular card that they can call their loved ones. To do that, they have to add money each month to their phone card, and the amount of money a call might cost them long distance or 50 cents a call, and that's what it is. But to use that unit, there's a charge that all the inmates in that or individuals in that institution, X amount of dollars they're deducting from them each month, and then they're able to pay for that particular using those phones or those features while they're at. Court can only pay based on pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the reason I asked what incentives were is because I didn't know that they ever existed in federal prison, to be honest.
Yeah. So this is going back years ago. This is probably before he even touched the pen, years ago, because you have to keep in mind there was a time where guys at minimum security was actually going out of the compound to work each day. So there was car manufacturing plant or facility that they would go to and make and work, and they were actually getting good money that they could actually send back home to their family. That was one of the things when he mentioned about the cutbacks and what took place that was taking place back then.
I definitely knew that guys were making a lot more in terms of what they were being paid back then, and but they also had a lot less amenities at the time. So I guess there's some pros and cons. But Yeah, I didn't. I could be totally wrong. That's news to me. I didn't know there was incentives. I just thought it was
Oh,
the 4-tier pay system.
so we're talking about room and board. I was just told that there's no more room and board. So room and board has been removed, and they still have welfare, inmate welfare. So that's individuals who don't work, and they're collecting maybe $7 or $10 every 2 weeks to help. But again, we have to keep in mind that and canteen. Maybe Sean would be the perfect one to tell us what was the cost of a body wash, because we have to go back to again what you're buying on your canteen. You might hear $40 every 2 weeks, and think it's a lot of money. But what was the cost in canteen, or even when you commissary when you go to do grocery?
I could tell you that it's usually between $8 to $15, depending on if it's like Dove or Selsun Blue or something like that. And you typically can only spend $90 every 2 weeks. So you have to survive off of that $90 every 2 weeks. But in terms of the entire fiscal year, your cap is $750, which is $90 every 2 weeks for an entire year equals more than $750. So you actually can't spend $90 every
Every
two
two
weeks.
weeks.
I mean, it just all reminds me why it's a great idea not to go to prison in the first place, to be
Stay
honest.
free. Perfect idea to stay free.
I mean,
Yeah.
prison's not supposed to be. It's not Disney. It's not Disneyland. It's not supposed to be fun. To be fair, and but at the same time, there still needs to be some level of behavior correction going on or rehabilitation, because guys are getting worse than they went in, and it's just hurting them, hurting the community, and it really doesn't benefit anybody.
Someone just expressed to us in our comments, we wouldn't need prison if we invested in community and people's circumstance. That was well said. Again, but no, I'll challenge that. I wouldn't say we wouldn't need prison, but I think the population of people in prison or coming out and going back would be a lot lower, right? There's some There's some cats out there that you just can't. Society's not built for them, right?
Yeah, that is definitely true. Prison is, I mean, it's been around since, if you believe in the Bible, prison's been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah. So that's fair to say. No guidance. Too much of us get locked up because we are a product of our environment. Yes, and are stuck in generational curse. But yeah, that is. And then my remark to that comment is the fact that so much of us or individuals do not understand that whole demographic or piece of product of our environment to be able to seek the guidance, but also the help, mental health. I mean, one of the things I always say to guys when it comes to reintegration support, the first thing you do is worry about your mind, reprogram your mind, because my theory is, and I've seen so many guys, once you get locked up, your mind is programmed in one way. It's called survival, right? Your food taken away from you, you got to stand up or whatever. You've been punked off and so forth. So these are very, very, very important traits that I think that really needs to be addressed. Right.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
my take on it. You can spend per week. Sean was saying something about you can spend per week. So here we go. Sean said it's up to $120 per pay and $850 a year. So it's gone up now to $850 a year, and that is correct because I remembered I was dealing with a case about pay, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it might have been last year or so. There was a pay increase. So that's how I
For the
came to the
system.
numbers that I
Yeah,
came with because I was advised that there was a pay increase.
yeah. I mean, I think it's important not to get, I mean, all these things are important in terms of what's happening inside the system, but I think it's important not to get caught up. I mean, you have to pick and choose your battle sometimes. And I had to learn that the hard way. You really have to pick and choose your battles in the system. And I mean, it would be best to avoid going there in the first place, but a lot of us end up there. And at some point, you're going to have to make the decision for yourself when you decide that enough is enough. And I genuinely feel like when you make that decision and when you're intentional about it, I don't really think anyone can hold you back from doing it. That's my genuine belief.
Yeah, I think also we have to express the fact that there is so many individuals outside that don't have the support, right? And I think the support plays a big role. I would say to individuals or the community, two factors I would always outline is the support, mental health and mentorship. Right, those are important because once you have individuals around you that can, the same way your mind got programmed in that survival mode, your mind need to be reprogrammed back into community and living day to day. Right. I recall years ago. This is going back probably around 4 years ago. I had an individual that I was supporting, and he was just totally beaten up on himself. He came up. He came home, and while he was home he had a small sibling, a little brother. I can't remember the age. Say, pick a number. He might have been 11 years old. And, you haven't seen your big brother for a long time. So he
Hmm.
was in the house somewhere and he was down on his knees or bending down. And his little sibling ran up behind him and jumped in his back to kind of hug him, right? Well, his mind kind of programmed as if he was being attacked and he threw his sibling across the room. I mean, with that whole prison mentality that someone's attacked it, that it affected him because he was so happy to be home, but he was, it was a situation that he hasn't yet reintegrate back to the community. And he has that prison mentality where, everybody knows you're in prison. You always have your back against the wall in case someone's
Yeah,
going to come up behind you, right? So
that's
that
so
was a
true.
perfect example.
Yeah, it took me a long time after release just to get used to, like, in prison, showers, one of the main places that people get attacked, stabbed, assaulted. And for the first couple months after I was released, I was still wearing my sneakers to the shower, doing all these things that I didn't even realize I was doing until, someone pointed it out to me. And I was like, damn, I'm really, super institutionalized.
Yeah. And it goes back again to our conversation where I said, the mental health is the most important part. I recall an individual even addressing just very recent that he had a hard time getting up at nights to go use the bathroom. He will still sit down in the toilet, to
Yeah.
use the bathroom to pee at night because of the noise of the stainless steel toilet and being in a cell with somebody else, right? So there's a lot of psychological aspect to it that the normal individual in the community would not understand when a person comes out, how their mind is. But there's someone here asking, how long was Mr. Freeze in the pen? You've had a couple of big.
Yeah, I had a 12-year sentence, and yeah, I mean, 12-year sentence, and it
Yeah.
was spread over several provinces, several institutions. And I mean, in the beginning, I made my time a lot harder than it had to be. I was just, you know,
You were
yeah, I
hectic. Let's
was,
use that word hectic. I recall one of the videos from you inside where you put a real violent ass whooping on somebody on a range. And that was quite the episode, right? In your young days, right?
yeah, and that situation actually crazy in so many ways because the individual that I was fighting with, he actually, it started by him pulling a weapon on me.
Right.
And I mean, you saw the video. I ended up hitting him first, and he dropped the weapon, so on and so forth. And then the staff that were in that part of the institution literally watched the entire, what was that fight, like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think that whole
It was
video
long.
that I had, I was fortunate enough to be able to,
Yeah,
have a copy of the video. But
it was pretty long.
yeah, it was a long video, like
And then it carried over back to the unit
upstairs.
that him and Lives, exactly, which is halfway across the property. So I say this all to say that they let this entire thing happen. And then once it was over, they took both of us to segregation. And I actually ended up getting charged with assault on this guy because basically every time he fell down and got back up and I hit him again, that was a new assault.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just these are the things that happen in prison. It's not a pretty place, and it's just an environment of survival of the fittest. And in a situation like that, what am I supposed to do? Walk
Yeah.
away, let this guy pick up his knife and end up and kill me? Like,
But we have to go back to the exact conversation that we were having earlier where we said about, the strong, and the fittest survive and how the mind is programmed about survival, right? And here someone says PTSD, prisons should not be added more trauma and pain to people who deserve rehabilitation. And here's that word again, rehabilitation. What does rehabilitation look like? Because we are at a time now where we constantly hear these words rehabilitation. But before an individual can rehabilitate, they need that psychological support. I recall I had an individual who wanted that support, but it was never offered to them because CSC, it was never required by him. His parole officer and so forth didn't support him, right? He didn't require it. So, there's so many situations. Like the average person cannot understand how difficult it is. And that's the reason why Keep Six is so deep into supporting the individual because these are the factors that, we feel that's important, when it comes to rehabilitation, mental health, employment, housing, mentorship, and so forth. And you yourself can really attest to that when it comes to reintegration because you lived it and the inside on both sides of the wall, right?
yeah. And I mean, I'll be fair. Like, I have a really supportive family. My family, they never condoned how I was living, but they always stood beside me. They always supported me. I can read, I can write. 75% of the guys incarcerated don't have any of those things. So I mean, like I have access to things that a lot of guys don't have access to. So I was definitely blessed in that way for sure. But again, this is why it's important not to go to prison in the first place.
Yeah. The lack of support for adult men who don't want to go back in the game is almost non-existent. They need options, training, and schooling. And yes, you're totally right. There's a lot. We're speaking about an individual that we interviewed a while back, and I used the word burnout. And Matthew agreed with me on that word. But one of the things Keep Six does is provide individual into the trades, the mental health, and so forth. Because one thing you have to remember and keep in mind, when an individual come out, one of the most important things to that individual is getting to work. they're excited. They want to give back. They want to support their family. So these are the very, very important thing. And hey, I do try my best to support them in that sense. I do have some community support and individuals that I partnered with, like, support from the unions and so forth like that. But again, we're in a really bad crisis right now where there isn't as much employment available because we have a bordering country with a little orange monster who has caused so much chaos that a lot of projects have been on hold and there's a lot of people at home. So these are the things. And one of the ways I felt we could combat that is entrepreneurship, allowing individuals the opportunity to get involved with, doing stuff that they can enjoy, but where they can be financially stable too, right? So that's how I see it.
I think a big thing is for sure, like, you know, guys that are, coming home or already home from a sentence. A lot of times it's hard to ask for help or admit that you need help because you're coming from an environment where you can't really show any weakness or vulnerability. So, it's hard to come home and reach out to some, organization that you don't know, tell them that you're a criminal, explain all of these embarrassing things about yourself, and then ask them for help. Like that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important for, organizations to have people like yourself that are relatable. You don't feel like you're being judged from the minute you walk in the door.
Yeah, I mean, I myself, I've had the opportunity of building a great relationship over the last 9, 10 years with guys inside. I have guys I'm working with who've been down for 22 years. We actually just did an interview with someone just yesterday he's been down. He's got 22 on his belt and, trying to get down to a minimum, for that day. So, and he went in, I think he said he might have been 18 or 19 when he went down and so forth, right? But we have to keep that in mind. And very good point there. Someone just pointed the sixth God should help with the support with some good words. Well, the sixth God, hopefully one day he'll holler at Keep Six and show us some love. We've had support individual that has been around the sixth God camp and so forth. So who knows? I don't focus on all that. I focus on the individual that's coming out and how I can make that person's life better, but also contribute towards reintegration, right? That's the important thing.
Somebody asked, the question says, do you feel like your life has some complete normality after your 12-year sentence? If not, what are some things you're still working on after being incarcerated for so long? I would say the main thing, like for me personally, this is probably not going to be true for everybody, but is my family. And I say that because maintaining a close relationship with my mom, my grandparents, my aunts, my son, whomever, is not going to go hand in hand with living a lifestyle of crime. I can't do both at the same time. And any time that I was really like in the streets, it always coincided with distance from my family. So, maintaining a close and honest relationship with them is important to me. And it's vital just in terms of my mental health, my emotional health. And I mean, at the end of the day, I make my own decisions, but I would say that's the biggest thing for me for sure is maintaining a healthy relationship with my loved one.
Yeah, that's always important. And a lot of individuals, I would say, don't have that family support, which plays a really, really big part, for a lot of guys. And that's where, I can fairly say that at least Keep Six was able to support individuals in that sense. And there's some other good organizations out there. I know of someone like Think Twice. They've been around, yeah. Old girl been around, putting in some real good work.
Yeah.
So you can't knock it for 1 minute. But again, like organization, even like Think Twice or Keep Six, it's been difficult, right? It's not easy, for us. We're actually doing the work, but we don't have the support. It's important, even when I get some university students or individuals to volunteer. It's a blessing because now with the way things is in society, when someone says they're willing to help you and volunteer, that means a lot, right? For their time and effort, right? So we have to really be cautious of that and respect that to the fullest, right? but
For
hopefully
sure.
one
That's
day.
important because, I mean, it's going to be hard to succeed like with Keep Six with those people helping you out because you need normal, everyday faces that are, you know, vouching for you and, you know, advocating on your behalf because, you know, people are only going to listen to someone like me for so long until they're like, guy is just a criminal complaining about prison. Like, why do I care?
Right.
And it makes a big difference for sure.
Yeah, and I agree because also when you say why do I care, we have to look at the cost. If they don't realize they're actually paying for it in their taxes. So every individual, the last number that I came across was each individual that keeps its support that stays out of prison. That's $100,000 the government saves.
Wow.
Yeah, but we never get $100,000, right? So just think about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But yeah, man, you've been fighting a good fight for sure, and I can personally attest to that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. What's one of the things I'd like to hear from you? What's a message you'd like to give to some of the young heads out there? Because, brother, I can't even, with what's going on, it's I don't even know what to say when it comes to them. Like, what direction, or from your own lived experience, if you were in front of 24, 15, 16, 13-year old, what would be your word to them?
Man, that's a great question. I would just say, you know, slow down and just think about what you're doing. Um, you know, I'm not going to be able to relate to everybody's circumstances. Everyone is raised differently. Everybody comes through life in a different ways. But I know a majority of the bad decisions that I made when I was young were all snap decisions. So I would just say, you know, slow down and take a minute to think about what you're doing before you do it. Because believe it or not, you're not going to be young forever. Even though it feels that way when you're young, but you're not going to be young forever. So you know, think twice.
Think toy, yeah, that's very good. And also we have to look at the fact that the way you're able to move, when you're 20, and the way you're able to move when you're late 30s or 40s, it's just not the same. So we all have to just stay free and really realize what's going on around us, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I want to say to everyone, thank you for joining us today. It's I know it's been a while, been over a year since I actually came on an Instagram live, and it's a pleasure. A lot of our community members been asking, "Hey, what happened to Keep Six? Connect the Six?" It's a pleasure, but most of all, kudos to you, man. It's always a pleasure seeing someone that I can actually come back and give back to the community after getting support from Keep Six, but stand up also and continue to fight the struggle, but also impact the community. And that's what we have to look at now as men. Be able to, do the best that we can to help others.
Yeah, you know, it's never too late to change. If you're breathing and you're walking, you know, God allows you to live and see another day. You have an opportunity to do something different and better.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because as you know, I get to see a lot of individuals with. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to a couple guys, and they're been down 24 years and stuff like that, and they just want that one opportunity just to be able to cascade down to a minimum, even, right? To have the opportunity to have one foot inside and one foot outside. And when I look at someone who made a mistake and made a choice at 19, but they're 40 odd years old now, and so forth, it just, leaves you to say, hey, we have to continue to do the work and, address these issues.
Yeah, for
Here's
sure.
someone asking, what are you planning to do at Beaver Creek in the coming weeks? How would you be able to help my loved one? When I go into the institution, I go into support individual regarding reintegration. I don't know who your loved one is until that individual is able to meet with me personally. I have a one-on-one with them. We offer mentorship, we offer employment support, we offer housing, cultural program. I cannot speak on that because I don't know who your loved one is. And whenever I go there, I'm hoping I can connect with him and I can start working with him. If I've never worked with him, I cannot give you an outline of what I'm going to do for him until I know his situation.
I just want to say one thing quickly.
Go ahead.
I think another thing that speaks to, Keep Six's, effectiveness is, I've watched the interview you did with Leon Boswell. I watched the interview you did with Chas Berry, with Tyshawn Riley. I've been incarcerated with all three of those guys back in 2013 in J Unit, Mill Haven Institution, Collins Bay. And so I know a little bit about them. And the fact that you were able to get those guys to do that, to do those interviews, tells me the respect level that, everybody has for your organization, because those guys have a lot of say and influence, and so that just stuck out to me when I saw that you got those, especially Leon and Tyshawn. I thought that was I was like, man, he's making waves, because that couldn't have been easy to get those guys to agree to do that.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Out of fairness, I'll say this though. I'll put it out there. Over the years, I've been working with quite a few individuals, and they have actually come forth about, being a voice. A lot of these guys now, the key things, one of their key main factor, even Leon, Deshaun, Chaz, their key thing right now is educating our youth, the generation that they were in when they went in, because of their thing, and I find it very, very powerful. I can't take that away from them at all. And again, for even Keep Six, even you're very much aware of how difficult things can be. But I'm very fortunate enough that I actually feel that we are doing something that's really relevant and important, to even have the support of CSC to be able to conduct these interviews and be able to give these guys a voice in the community to educate our youth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So those are some really big factor.
Yeah, because I think it's one thing for me to do it from the community, but those guys are serving life sentences.
Right.
So, I mean, just personally, that just stuck out to me that you got those guys to do those interviews. That was pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, thank you. And I continue. I just did a big one. Watch out for it. I just did it yesterday. It's going to be a really, really big one. He's been down. Yeah, he's been down for about 22 years.
Which institution?
He's over at Workforce right now.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Lyford. Yeah. So he is just did that yesterday. Just edited it in to come out, and really, again, very educated young man. Went in when he was young, and he did an interview to educate. Again, a perfect example. Just wanted to really make that difference.
Oh, Mullins. Yes. Dwayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
So he really wanted to make that impact about the young individuals out here and so forth. And I think the other thing you have to look at too, with a lot of individuals, what they're watching on the news and so forth. They're I think they're reflecting on their choices at that time, at that age, and they see the difficult and how a bad decision has led them. And they're really trying to really educate individuals out. And, for me to be able to have the opportunity to bring that to life and give them that voice, it's a totally different situation when you have that voice behind the wall. But when you can hear the community hear you and you're able to express it, it's a different ballgame. That's just my train of thought.
You know why? Because a lot of times guys feel that catch me before I made that decision. And it's different when it's somebody that's never been through it, but hearing it from a guy that's been through it could actually make a difference.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But folks, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. This conversation could go on for quite a few hours. I really love the fact that we had so many individuals from the community interacting and joining us tonight. This will be up on our YouTube, and this will be something I'll be doing at least twice a month from now on. So you'll be more or less welcome back to Keep Six Connected Six. We're having some deep discussion. If you would like to be a part of the Keep Six Connected Six, holla, Keep Six org. We're here. Here's one for you, Matthew. You've always been a real brother, and I'm very happy to see you, us as a Black brother in Nova Scotia, taking the right steps for changes and speaking about your experiences. Yes.
For sure, respect, much respect.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
If we can put effort into, carrying straps and doing all of this, other shit, we can put effort into something positive. There's no reason we can't. Excuse my language.
Yeah, there's someone here. Sarah said, I would like him to connect you to him. I will box you. All right. So you can always reach out to us. Again, we're at social media across the board. Is Keep 6, KEEP, the number 6, IX, ORG. You can reach us at all over Instagram. You can also reach us at 1-800-640-3075 or info@keep6.org. Please, don't hesitate. If you need help, if you need support, if you want to volunteer, we're always open to it. So please and thank you for coming out. And it's been a pleasure here. Before we leave, we're going to drop a little bit of tunes for everybody out here, right?
And I had a long day in court.
All right, Richard, man. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, folks. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.
Money, the rap money, work out for you on D-Block when I was burning the hemp. Had a brick in the stash, hope they don't take it to a further extent. Locked up and they won't let me out when I hit my cell block.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for our next episode and stay free.